Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. Well. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, that's right. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, January 25th. 25 days into the new year, just 340 days left. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Got a great show lined up tonight. It's been a great week. Can't believe it's already Wednesday. Wow. Tonight we have Olav Phillips here. The great Olaf Phillips. We're going to discuss the question, is disclosure dead? Man, you know, in a weird way, it's been like UFOs all week. And that's just what I like to talk about right here on Fade to Black. Besides time travel, Egypt, Giza, right? Tomorrow night is another Fader night with John Rappaport. Open lines all night long. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. We're going to open up the phones tonight as well. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. You can follow Olav at Paranoia Mag on Twitter, at Paranoia Mag. The links are up on Twitter already, so you can go and do that. And thank you for all the dancing gifts. I just love this Fade or Not family. There is a reason why you guys are so great. And I got to tell you, a ballerina wolf is pretty cool. Thank you for that. You guys are the best. And I really mean that. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black. J Church Radio, KJCR. You know what to do. Follow, like, and subscribe. All of the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Those funky little buttons. Click on them all. You can email throughout the show tonight. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. The Sandbox, TweetDeck, Twitter is hashtag F2B. It's that simple. Hashtag F2B. Everything runs in real time to my left, to my right. The chat rooms are there. Go hang out and participate. Chat rooms are there if you just can't squeeze it down to 140 characters. And you know what's funny? I go over to the chat rooms. Well, it's easier to chat, man. It's easier. And I go, and everybody's doing, 5-word sentences. You know? So why aren't you over on Twitter? I don't know. Maybe some people just like to chat. All right. But that's what we do with the Sandbox. It's a big chat fest over there, too, as well. Subscribe to our podcast. We have over 600 archive shows. Custom apps, everything, Apple, Android, Kindle, everything you need, all platforms. Just go to the Apple Store, go to the Google Store, everything for just $2 a month. $2. That's it. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast banner, and get it going. Support the show, all right? And the apps are really cool, too, as well. Check out all of our sponsors. This is America. That's right. We run on advertising. This show is free. Everything that we do is free. How do we do it? We do it with advertisers, okay? It's the American way. Support the show. Support yourself. Click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. use the promo codes that we have up in those banners. You're going to get yourself some discounts or free shipping or both. All right? It's really that simple. So go and support the show. All right? The first big conference of the season is coming up. Today's the 25th, February 10th. Can you believe it? At the LAX Hilton. It is the Conscious Life Expo. February 10th through the 13th at the LAX Hilton right here in Los Angeles, California. Tickets, info over at jimmychurchradio.com. If you cannot attend the conference, just get the live stream. Yeah, we're going to broadcast live Friday night from the Plaza Ballroom, the big room downstairs. We're going to have 14 guests, 16 guests in 3 hours, and you can see Fade to Black live in streaming video. There you go. All right. Live stream links are over there, too, as well, jimmychurchradio.com. Then Contact in the Desert is May 19th through the 22nd in Joshua Tree, California. Also, tickets and info over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, let's get this show cracking. Let me get some stuff out of the way. Today is Australia Day. So happy Australia Day. And I do mean that because we have all of our fans and so many Fadernauts over in Australia. You guys are a big part of our audience. Love Australia. Happy Australia Day. The official national day of Australia, by the way. It marks the anniversary of the 1788 arrival of the first fleet of British ships at Port Jackson in New South Wales and the raising of the flag of Great Britain at Sydney Cove by Governor Arthur Phillip. Happy Australia Day. Several people reported hearing 2 large bangs or booms yesterday in San Diego, and some were saying that the earth was shaking, and this was just after 3 p.m. yesterday, Tuesday, in San Diego. Fox News 5 in San Diego covered the breaking story, and we want to hear from you. If you were in San Diego yesterday and you felt or heard something at around 3 p.m., call into the show tomorrow night, Fader Night. We do want to hear from you, okay? The Air Force, the Navy, all of the installations down there, the Marines, say that they had no aircraft in the area that would have caused it. And that's what's interesting. The FAA, I've looked at a couple of those reports too as well. Everybody is saying nothing happened or that they weren't the instigators. So I want to know if you were there, if you heard anything, if you saw anything, call into the show tomorrow night. All right. Happy birthday to Fade or Not, John Wishnack. Today is 37. Our dead guy's birthday today is Etta James. That's right. She's saying at last. 1938 to 2012. Died at the age of 73. On this day in history. By the way, Etta James, she won 6 Grammys, 17 Blues Music Awards, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993, the Blues Hall of Fame in 2001, Grammy Hall of Fame in both 99 and 2008. Rolling Stone magazine ranked her number 22 on its list of the 100 greatest singers of all time. How about that? And number 62 on its list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. On this day in history, January 25th, 1905, the largest diamond ever was found. 3,106 carats. Now, what does that translate to? 1.33 pounds of diamond. The largest diamond ever found. All right, Fader fact. Check this out. It is illegal in Saudi Arabia for men to work in lingerie shops. Now, wait a minute. I know that they discriminate against women on all counts, but that's discriminating against us guys, isn't it? Illegal to work at a lingerie shop. Tonight, we have Olav Phillips here with us. Paranoia Magazine, Mysterious Magazine, and all other things. He's even got a little network going on, too. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk, is disclosure dead? Tomorrow night's another Fader Night with John Rappaport. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. We will open up the phone lines a little bit later with Olav. But right now, Larry Haber is with us. And, Larry, I almost now, welcome back to the show, by the way. Say hello to everybody.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
I almost don't know how to introduce you now, right? So, you know what I mean?
I'm the guy that gets posted often and unfortunately has gotten his family involved with it.
Exactly. You know, that's a good introduction. A guy that gets his family in trouble.
Exactly.
So, Larry, welcome back to the show. And I have slowly over the last, 4 or 5, 6 months, every time you and I talk on the phone, I report back to the audience what I do or don't know, and that you say hi to everybody. So we've been doing that. You've been all around the world the last 6 months, and we've been staying in touch with each other. But now we have an actual, real reason for you to come on the show tonight. I wanted to give us both the opportunity, certainly yourself, to put a few things to bed. The John Titor story is something that will probably never go away, and it has its ebb and flow over the years, as you well know. But there's some things going on right now, so I'm gonna hand it off to you first. Is the development between your relationship between yourself and the Titor family? Let's start there.
Sure. About 8 months ago, I was contacted by my clients, and I was told that basically they wouldn't be contacting much, if at all, anymore, and that everything was pretty much wrapped up, done, and thank you very much for your service. So, as I'd like to remind people, I have served as a lawyer in this capacity for all these years. I don't really follow what goes on much, except people call or they email or even gotten texts from anywhere, because my phone number is listed. I have a law practice, and people find it easily by just looking me up. So I'm very polite with people, but I don't really keep track, and I've been told basically, thank you very much, but we really won't be needing your services anymore. So I pretty much had thought a few months ago that finally this is just wrapped up, and whatever's going to happen on the internet and other people's media information, et cetera, would just be what was already out there. And then, of course, leading into probably your next question, it sort of heated up at the end of the year.
Well, and we'll get to that in a second. Let me ask you this,
Sure.
Because you've been involved with the Titor family for, I don't even know now, this is 2016. How many years?
I have quite, you know what, I knew you'd ask, and I don't even know how long it's been. It's probably been at least 12, 13, 14, 15 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
At least. It's got to be that long.
And so how do you feel about that relationship? Are you relieved? Are you happy? Are you melancholy? How do you feel about it? I mean, that's a long time for anything.
It's a long time, but for me, it has been every few months I might get a request about something, or they'd like to make a point or send some information out. But I have been probably the least involved person with all of this that is got any name associated with it. And that's all I keep trying to tell people is I don't know anything. I'm a lawyer. This is what I do. I have clients that do movies and films and TV shows, and I've got software clients and all sorts of clients, and this just happens to be another client. The fact that it's become what it's become is totally, totally out of my hands. I've been trying to be gracious when people say, can we interview you? And I said, sure, I don't have any problem either being on camera or a radio show. Again, I'm a lawyer. I go in court. This is what I do. So happy to answer questions, and I answer as many questions from people as they send to me. I don't think I've ignored anybody. Sometimes I don't have an answer, but I don't think I've ignored anybody that's even contacted me privately.
And how are you okay? Just letting this go and
absolutely.
Moving forward.
Sure. I mean, wherever this goes, it's going to go without me from now on, basically, unless the Titor family decides to get back back to me again. Right now, I thought this was pretty much over a few months ago, and that would be the end of it. There really, for the last year, there hasn't been much contact to me or anything else except, now recently. And so it's heated up again.
If somebody wanted to, I wanted to ask you this really quick. Do you practice law in California, sure. Entertainment law in California?
No, but because it's what my practice is basically transactional, I do have clients out there. I have them around the country. People like entertainment lawyers pretty much can do contracts and deals, so to speak, anywhere. So I do have a couple of clients in the LA area. I have a couple up in Washington State, a number of them in New York, and scattered around the country, besides just in Florida.
Yeah, I always wondered how that worked. You know, if my attorney was an entertainment guy in New York, I guess it doesn't matter. It's just contractual stuff, right? It's going back and forth via email.
And, you know, if you go through the bar information, theoretically, none of us should be doing that, but there isn't anybody that doesn't on a transactional basis. I certainly can't go into court in California, for example, or give anybody an opinion on California law. I don't even set up corporations or businesses for people in other states because I stay away from all of that. But if it's a contract between, let's say, a producer and a talent somewhere, I'll certainly be able to do the contract for that particular deal. And that's the kind of stuff I do.
Yeah, I've wondered about that through my contractual stuff, too, as well, because I'm dealing with, attorneys all over the country. They're not necessarily here in Los Angeles. So anyway, okay, moving on.
Sure.
We have, about a month ago, somebody sent me this video that the Titor hoax was put to bed, right? And I will say this for the record. I watched about the first 5 minutes of it, 7 minutes of it, kind of scanned through it, and I was hoping for, which I didn't get from it, therefore I just lost interest in it. I didn't watch it. I was hoping for this, Larry, that somebody had found Titor's time machine. It was a model in a garage, right, in North Hollywood, or some of the original graphics were produced, and they had that, the smoking gun, and they, and ready to name names. And once it didn't go there, I lost interest in it. But for you, your brother Maury was implicated in this. So what's your position there?
I can categorically 100% and whatever else I need to swear on the stack of Bibles, so to speak, that it is not my brother. He has nothing to do with this. He didn't know anything about it except the fact that he started to show up because people suspected it might be him. I think part of the reason people are gravitating towards him is because he's in the field of cybersecurity, pretty high up. He actually lectures around the world on cybersecurity. His company does very heavy cybersecurity for Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
And so it was easy to look to him and say, it's got to be him. I mean, my son was it for a while, but it didn't match the timeline because he would have been too young. Then somebody else thought it was another brother I had called John Rick. I've never had a brother, John Rick. I have a brother named Richard who somebody labeled John Rick, and that was out there for a while. But all of it just happened and went past, and that was okay. But what's happening now to my brother and his business in particular, because people are actually hounding him now. When I contacted you, I said, I'd like to just set the record straight, and just 100%, it is not my brother. He has nothing to do with this.
What's Thanksgiving going to be at your house? What's that going to be like this year as your brothers stare at you?
We all enjoy it. My brother Arthur, of course, for those of you that really follow this, got into it, and he apologized. I had no idea he was posting anything about it until it all broke out. And then he just called me and he said, oh, my God, I had no idea what I was doing. I said, Arthur, what did you do? And that's when I found out that he had these posts and he had some dialogue with some folks online. He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows that I have a client and that's it. He doesn't know anything more than my brother Richard, than my brother Maury. I have a client, and that's basically what I have. I have a client that I keep in communication with once in a while, and that's it.
Why do you think you've had so much time to think about this, but why the interest focus back on your family, number one, and number two, why does the John Titor story just never go away? I mean, John himself, hasn't, there's nothing there tangible, certainly in the last 10 years, when it comes to John.
Correct.
Why does this not go away, and why the focus on your family?
Beats me, Jimmy. Actually beats me. I had no idea this was going to be like this when I first took the client on. It just befuddles me, except to the extent that given the times we're living in and particularly the election of President Trump recently and the conspiracy theories and alternate timelines of everything going to hell in a handbasket, et cetera, I think that this feeds that very, very well. I've always said from the very beginning and on interviews, I've said, I have no idea if this is real. I'm fed stuff as I'm fed it very carefully, and that's how the information gets out. I get paid as a lawyer to do what I do, and that's it. And I think I love sci-fi. I'm into science fiction, science. I read a lot. My son, as your listeners would know if they follow this, is, putting rockets up into space, working for Blue Origin now, up in Seattle. So I've got a connection to all of this, and I love this stuff, but I have no idea if this stuff is real or not. I've never given it much thought, except it just keeps growing and growing and growing. But at this point in time, if it affects my family or impacts them as it's starting to do, I've really got a problem with it. This is the first time that has happened, but it's starting to affect me now.
There's one other thing I'm going to ask you before I let you go. Do you, Larry, have any financial ties back to Titor? Do you own any trademarks, or is there anything out there like that can be tied back to you where it's going to, add fuel to the fire?
At this point, no. But let me give you a caveat, and this may be something that would help or not help. At some point, when I was told that I was no longer needed for any services, I was told that at some point they would explain to me what's been going on and give me more detail. I have no hope if that's going to happen. I don't know if it ever will. But if that kind of stuff was given to me, yeah, there could be some value in it. And I don't know what I do with it at that point in time. I've had people contact me to do a movie. Quite frankly, I've had somebody contact me that said, I don't even care if it's real or not. The story over the last 14 years of you and your family is enough for a movie. I said, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
So I don't know where it's going to go. Could I profit off of this thing? Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. There's no intention, and there's never been any intention on my part to do that up till now. I've just been paid an hourly fee for the few hours every year that I've been involved with this, and that's all that it's been up till now. And I don't own anything in terms of what the story is or anything like that. No financial interest at this time. But I don't know what they're going to do. At some point, they may say, take the ball and run with it. I don't know.
Well, I've got a lot of respect for you. You know that. I'll just say that on the air. I don't know how I would deal with this personally if my family, got wrapped up into something that I was potentially the cause of. But I think I would be a little bit more angry. You have kept your feet on the ground and have maintained that. So I've just got to give you mad props for that. And there you go.
Thank you.
All right, Larry. So listen, thank you for taking the time to come on. Our audience really, really appreciates this, and hopefully we'll be seeing John come back from the future here really soon. Okay.
I would love to see where this goes to. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. Be safe out there. Give my best to the family. Okay.
Okay, we'll do. Thanks.
You got
Good
it.
night.
There you go. Thank you so much, Larry Haber. So that puts everything to bed, everybody. For right now, that's it. That's directly from Larry. So any rumors, anything that you've heard, that's it right there. You just heard it from Larry. Okay? It's not his brothers. It's not his family. He no longer works for the Titor family. He has moved on from this, and that is it. And he's got no financial stake in this. And let's all just move on for now. John comes back from the future. We'll talk about it. But right now, and especially when it comes to Larry, who's been a great friend of this show, I am just putting all of this to bed, and that is directly from Larry himself. So thank you, Larry. Now, tonight, disclosure. Disclosure. Is disclosure dead? Olaf Phillips is going to be here. The D word, as we use it around here, disclosure. I would say that, and you as an audience have listened to enough phone calls and enough guests. The audience wants to know about disclosure. It's the most of the email, text, post, everything out there is disclosure. Now we've got a new administration in, and now it's come back. Disclosure. Where are we now? Everything that happened with Podesta and Tom DeLonge and Hillary and everything were that direction a year ago. Think about how much of that has changed to today, January 25th, right? We can take all of that hope that we had with all of that. I'm not talking about Tom DeLonge specifically, but certainly John Podesta. Hillary's not in office. Podesta has got his issues with Pizzagate and that internet snafu. So we've got that. So that takes, Podesta virtually off of the table. We can't even say his name anymore. It's so clouded and so dirty. And so is disclosure dead? Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to take your phone calls, too. Look, I get it. Jimmy, what are you saying? Well, the point is, it's a very simple question. Where are we today? How many times can I answer that question, with a caller? Jimmy, when do you think disclosure is going to happen? Disclosure. Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I don't think I've ever dedicated an entire show to the D word. And that's what we're going to do tonight with Olaf Phillips, publisher at Paranoia magazine. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Larry Haber, for coming in and giving us that very important John Titor update. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow me on Twitter @jchurchradio. You can follow Olav Phillips at Paranoia Mag on Twitter. I'll be right back on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders. and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I want to thank Larry Haber for coming in. Very cool for him to take the time. But tonight we're going to discuss, is disclosure dead? Olaf Phillips. He is a conspiracy researcher specializing in the secret space program, exotic aircraft, high technology, foreign policy, prehistory, and mysterious civilizations. God, man, he kind of sounds like me. Olaf is the publisher and writer for Paranoia magazine and Mysterious magazine. He has also written for Mysteries magazine and has served as executive producer and principal researcher for Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. Olav has also appeared on many popular radio shows as well as television presentations, including The Outer Edge, The Higher Side Chats, ConspiracyHQ TV, and of course, right here on Fade to Black. Tonight we're going to discuss, is disclosure dead? We have been very close to achieving disclosure on the UFO subjects. A lot of things got hot and close over the last few years, combined with conspiracy theorists and UFO groups and the recent changes in Washington, D.C. The question is once again before us, disclosure. Well, tonight, is disclosure dead? We're going to find out. His website is paranoiamagazine.com, and I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Olav Phillips. Olav, good evening.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going?
It's always great when you're here. I'm going to ask you, how's it going, Olav?
It's going okay. It's going okay. We're very busy laying out our new issue. So, we're trying to keep busy over in Paranoia land.
Yeah, and for everybody really quick, we've got the links up for Paranoia magazine. Tell us about that really quick for those that haven't checked it out.
Sure. Well, it's one of the oldest conspiracy paranormal UFO magazines in existence. It was founded in the early 90s. It's even been reviewed by Playboy and the Village Voice, saying that it was a good magazine. But, we cover a lot of different things. We'll have secret space program stuff. We'll have cryptozoology. We did a whole issue on Tesla. We did an issue on Slender Man. We have some famous people that have written for us. We have famous people that are writing for us. So, we try to run the gambit across the entire kind of paranormal spectrum, UFOs, conspiracies, cryptozoology, occult, about everything in between.
And
so we just try to keep it interesting.
Yeah, what does it cost?
It's $9.99 in print. It's $2.99 download, and we give away the first 40 issues. The first 40 issues are downloadable for free.
Oh, very cool. So just everything you need to know is over at paranoiamagazine.com, right? And
that's right.
Yeah, the links are over at Jimmy Church Radio, everybody, so you can just go and click. It's right there next to Olav's name. Yeah, it's a great issue. I actually contacted you on something else that was written, and we started talking about stuff. It's just really well-written stuff. Now, really quick, I'm just going to throw myself under the bus because I contacted you, and I go, dude, man, this latest article is amazing. And you go, Jimmy, I can put you in touch with the writer. I thought it was you. You could have said, Jimmy, yeah, thank you, but you didn't.
Nope. You know what? I'm a writer and a researcher. If I wrote it, I'm proud of it. And if somebody else wrote it for us. It's on the Zika virus. And
Yes.
it is a fantastic article, and I'm proud of the guy who wrote it. And I'm really pleased and happy he let us put it up. So,
who was the author on that?
I can't remember offhand.
Okay, all right.
Believe it or not, I've done this like 1,000 times, but I get really nervous. I still get nervous when I come on the show.
Why is that? I mean, I see you all the time. You're doing videos and interviews. You're calm, cool, and collected, bro.
Oh no, it's all a front, man. No, I get nervous, and the way it manifests. I'm sure the Fadernauts will understand that you're in possession of 99% of the information. Like you drill, and you're okay. I'm going to cover this and that, and then there's that one piece of info, and it's like, oh crap, I can't remember that one.
It happens all the time, and I tell everybody, when this is a family, the Fade to Black family, and it's all good, it's so funny. I'll get a first-time caller. I was so nervous to, what do you mean? just come on here, and let's just hang out. But now let's get into this disclosure conversation, because the headway that we started to make, certainly going back to 2000, and then the other presentations that were done in D.C. Just recently, and the Hillary connection, her going on network television, certainly Obama and her husband Bill, everybody talking about ET in late night television. It seemed like something was about to crack, right? And then Podesta and his famous tweet from last year. It seemed like we had some hope. There was light at the end of the tunnel. Where are we today? Where do you think we stand?
Well, my perspective on disclosure, it probably won't make me a lot of friends, but I try to be honest about it, right? The one thing you can count on is I'm going to tell you what I actually do think. And I think it's a failure to launch. I think it's been a failure to launch the entire time. You have these moments where we think we've made movements, and I'm not a strictly UFO guy. I like conspiracy stuff too, but I do, I am interested in UFOs. I've seen them. I don't think they're all aliens, but I think that some of them are. But I think we've seen these moments, like Schiff trying to get the Roswell information. Supposedly Clinton, was trying to get information, obviously Podesta, and then you've got the Hillary, Hillary goes and sees Lawrence Rockefeller. Rockefeller is, the Rockefeller name in general is well known to any conspiracy researcher. He's got a whole disclosure program. You've got all this disclosure stuff going on. You can go, every time there's a new TV show, Fringe is going to cause disclosure. The Arrival is going to cause disclosure. And nothing ever happens. There's never a change. And the reason is, I think, that the control of that information, whether it is that the black triangles are human, or the black triangles are alien, or the black triangles are whatever, interdimensional, ultra-terrestrials, crypto-terrestrials, whatever you want to call them, right? That information is controlled by the deep government. That there's this idea that there's two levels of government, that we think as citizens of the United States, that we vote every 4 years, we put somebody in, he's got this sweeping power, and he or she is going to come in and change the world, and the truth is that they don't. Because they can put in people who run the cabinet, they can put in a Supreme Court justice, they can put in a CIA director, but the actual machinations of the government, and this is true of any government, is run in the deep state. This is way down deep. These are people who have been, in control of their jobs for 30 or 40 years. They're apolitical. They watch, the appointees come and the appointees go, but they still operate the deep state. And the information that you seek through disclosure is in the deep state. And I don't think that anybody, especially the self-appointed leaders of the disclosure movement, I don't think they have the cachet that they appear to. And I think that because they don't have the cachet that they appear to, that they cannot break the deep state barrier. Breaking the deep state barrier is very difficult. Most of the people that do it end up dying. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, you can look at Danny Casolaro.
Right.
You know, he exposed parts of the deep state, and he ended up in a bathtub.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and the three. Well, yeah. Let's just go with this. You have Leslie Kean. Of course, you've got Stephen Bassett. You've got Stephen Greer. Three distinct, different approaches to disclosure. And the three of them, I know all three. The three of them don't think that the other is doing it the right way. That it's messing up disclosure, right? And is there a way to unify that front? And even if we did unify the front, would it do any good? Is that approach going straight at Washington or straight to it at the government level, which all three of them are doing? Is that just the wrong approach, even if they were able to unify and get, like an OPEC-style disclosure group together? Would it do any good?
I don't think so. I would argue to you that, that none of the three of them, well, maybe Leslie Kean, maybe she's got the best bet. Because, she's going out and interviewing pilots and generals and all these people that have seen this stuff, right? That's probably the best bet. But for my money, I don't think, especially Greer and Bassett, I don't think that they're going to achieve anything. In fact, the interesting, and no doubt I'm going to have 100,000 people emailing me telling me I'm insane. But go read the John Podesta emails. I mean, somebody got in there and got all of Podesta's emails. And you can see messages that were sent by Stephen Bassett to Podesta, and you can see him not responding.
Right.
You can see him. I remember one in particular that Podesta was quoted in in an article on, and Bassett sent him the link back as if he didn't already have it, and he said, "Don't you think it's time that we have an off-the-record conversation now?" Well, far be it for me to understand how to deal with somebody in politics, but that's not the way that I would approach it, right? That I would be much more conciliatory. Hi, my name's Olaf. I'm a big fan. Would you be willing to sit down with me for a few minutes and talk to me? And I represent a bunch of people. I think a lot of the movement that we've seen when this paradigm clock, this disclosure clock moves, I think a lot of that is because these people are simply interested. I think Podesta is genuinely just interested in UFOs, just like I am or you are.
Right.
I think Clinton is just interested. So they get into a position of power and they say, well, I'm interested in UFOs. You know what? I'm going to try to crack it open, right? And they go and try to crack it open and they hit a wall. Because I think most presidents are not told what exactly is going on. Because, again, it is controlled by the deep state. If you want to get at that information inside the deep state, the way you get it is to look for cracks in the deep state. It's research, right? How did the guys expose, Watergate, right? It's research. Of course, they had a whistleblower, and there are a lot of whistleblowers that float around, conspiracy stuff and UFO stuff. I have yet to see any of them that have made a massive difference.
Well, it seems to me. Let's go back in time for a little bit. Let's go back to that era between 1947, and you can go back maybe a year before that, or two, to 1945. But let's say from 1947 to 1952. The military, the Air Force, the Army didn't have issues. The White House did not have issues in talking about the UFO subject, flying saucers, in public, and they obviously showed general interest. But what they didn't do at that time was how do I say it? Not talk about it. Aside from the retractions. Aside from the retractions at Roswell. But after 1952, it took another direction. But we were really close to a disclosure type scenario between 47 and 52.
But the question you have to ask yourself, right, is that I actually think we got extremely close to disclosure one time. I mean, genuinely, like, on the verge of disclosure and, finding out at least something. Or it's either that or it was a, well-designed disinformation program. And by the way, in that time period in the 50s, you have the development of a lot of secret stuff, right? And during that time period, you have this operations like the CIA that are doing Operation Mockingbird, where they're going out and they're recruiting legitimate journalists into propaganda campaigns, and they're getting, legitimate journalists to write propaganda puff pieces or propaganda pieces, and at the same time, you have the KGB, they're putting in deep cover agents, which they still do. I mean, the last set of them was Anna Chapman and her friends, and they got caught, 2010? So at that time, they were putting in deep cover operatives who were infiltrating UFO groups, that were going out on sky watches to try to find planes. And at the same time, you have, the CIA doing the reverse, that they're sending guys in to watch the KGB guys. So, it's all very muddy. I mean, what is true disclosure? What do you think that they're actually going to disclose to? That's part of the problem. Are they going to tell you that it's aliens? Are they going to tell you that it's a top secret aircraft? I would argue to you that there probably is some alien stuff, but the predominant thing that you would find is that it's top secret aircraft.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, exactly. But they didn't. They didn't have pandemonium in the streets. There was an anarchy that went down between 47 and 52. So, what were they scared of?
I think that they started to figure out that some of these aircraft were probably, maybe some of them are alien, some of them were Soviet. And we were, from 47 to 52, you start to see a rapid expansion of the Cold War. You start to see more top secret programs. The SR-71 was developed in the 50s. Right, during the 50s, they're working on cruise missiles. They're developing some fairly sophisticated stuff. And by the way, the A-12, the Oxcart, the original SR-71,
yes,
the CIA had a very active program where they'd blame UFOs on that thing. So that thing it was silver, and it goes streaking across the sky. And people were like, oh my God, that's a UFO.
Right.
Oh my God, the aliens are coming. And they'd write in the CIA through Mockingbird and other operations. They'd be like, yeah, that was a UFO. But it was actually an A-12. So it's very muddy. That's why I think that they all got it wrong, because we don't know the dynamics of what we're dealing with. And when Greer and Bassett and these other people go and they say, I'm going to get disclosure, it's like, you're going to get disclosure from who? And you're going to get disclosure of what? I mean, I see a lot of petitions. I see a lot of news conferences. But petitions and news conferences serve to placate the populace. They serve to make the people who believe in disclosure feel better about it, right? The truth is that if you want disclosure, you've got to get in there. There's no get-rich-quick scheme. You've got to get in there, and you've got to research it. You've got to look for the cracks.
Well, you said earlier, I'm going to go back to your comment, which was, you said we were probably really, really close at one point. What year were you talking about? And give me exactly the example you wanted to refer.
Sure. So there's elements of this that are actually quite funny. Back in the 90s, there was a guy by the name of Bob Oshler.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Oshler. Now, unless there's something that I don't know about it, and I'm the first person to admit that I don't know everything. So if there's something I missed, and please tell me so you can change my opinion.
Okay.
But back in the 90s, there was a guy by the name of Bob Oshler. Timothy Good, who was a big researcher back then, and he wrote a whole bunch of books. He was approached by a guy named Bobby Ray Inman, who was an admiral, and he had been involved in the CIA. And he wanted Timothy Good to help him to plan a exposition of like alien junk, like garbage left over from crashes, bodies, that kind of stuff. Good said, well, I can't do it, which I think is kind of strange if you're given that opportunity. But he said, I can't do it, but you should talk to this guy Oshler. And Oshler had been like a NASA contractor. And so Oshler talks to Inman, and they start kind of figuring it out. Well, Oshler, for whatever reason, whatever his motivation was, he taped all the phone calls. And so one day, he decided to release those tapes, and it's Bobby Ray Inman straight up. I mean, it's not a lie. It's Bobby Ray Inman. He's straight up saying, okay, well, I've got a Roswell body in a tank, and I'm going to put it in a semi. We're going to drive it around and show people. And then he had a videotape that they had made where it was like a promo video. And so then Oshler goes on Sightings, which was a huge show back then, that was produced by Henry Winkler. And the funny thing about that show is this is where these things get messy, right? The host was a guy named Tim White, and Tim White had been a news anchor and a reporter and a lot of other things. But what most people don't know is he was also a brigadier general in the United States Air Force Reserve. And his job in the Air Force was as a public relations officer. So he's the guy who would be spinning the spin job that the elements of the military-industrial complex would want the Air Force to say. Well, he's the host of Sightings, and he's reporting this. So Oshler comes out, big deal, right? He's got videotape, and he's got all his audio cassettes, old days, and all this stuff. And then everybody's excited, oh my God, what is this stuff? And then one day he gets a letter, or he gets a manila envelope from Canada. And in the manila envelope is a cassette tape. It's like a VHS tape. And the return address is Guardian, and there's like a thumbprint. And it was mailed, I think, from Canada. And so he pops in and plays it. And it appears to show a UFO landing with a whole bunch of Royal Canadian Mounted Police guys getting around it. And he's like, oh my God, I got a whistleblower who's giving this crazy video of a UFO landing in Canada. The Canadians are all over it. Well, so he goes off and starts, oh, look at what I found, and let's, generate some PR, right? And it turns out that it's a helicopter, and, the Canadians are like, here's all the details about the helicopter. This is when it landed. This is what it was doing, yada, yada, yada. And Oshler kind of takes a hit for it, rolls over and says, you know what, I'm done with you guys. I want nothing to do with ufology, and he walked away from it all. And they basically destroyed his reputation. So, I think that what he had potentially, if it was real, the stuff that he had collected from Inman, if that stuff was real and not part of a disinformation program, I think that's pretty damn close.
Yeah,
that's a crazy story.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember the year. That's the thing. I want to say that I read the book about this that Oshler wrote. It seemed like it was in the 70s, but I guess.
Oh, no. It was like 96.
Okay. Well, it just goes to show you how polluted my brain is. But I remember reading the book, or maybe I read something else in the 70s about it. That might have been it when I was a kid. But the point is that Oshler had approval from the White House. His hands
disseminated.
Right. His hands were held through all of this. He had meetings at the Pentagon. They kept promising him. I remember him talking about the way that he would meet with this general, and the general would like put stuff down in front of him, a book about UFOs or whatever, and that the
pictures of the bodies.
Right.
Like, well, I need to see the body in the tank. And you'd be like, okay. Here you go. And they had a whole program where they were going to do it. And eventually got a bit disillusioned.
Well, and
to get into the detail of it, he got disillusioned by it.
Right. And the whole intention was to have like a roadside attraction show that went across the United States that would show. Now, that was the other thing. Oh, by the way, Olaf, you're breathing really heavy in the phone. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll try not to.
You know, for me, it's entertaining, but for the audience,
no.
Okay. Is this the film that he was promised that he would be able to actually play at this roadside attraction was showing, a flying saucer that actually, a craft coming down and landing. I think wasn't it at Holloman? Okay,
no, it was Holloman.
It was Holloman.
The logistics were supposed to be done by Barnum and Bailey,
right?
The circus operation. And he actually had a promo video that they showed on Sightings. He had a promo video, and it was called Cosmic Journey.
And it was a reenactment, though. There wasn't that piece of film a reenactment? But none of that actually matters. What was funny with Eschler, though, was that he never actually got to see the film. You know, they shuttled him around between the Pentagon and offices and and he never got his hands on the film.
He had all the promo material.
All approved by the White House. It was all approved by the White House.
Brochures.
Yes.
All approved
by
the DOD, and everybody approved it. He had brochures. He had the promo video, and then he had all these conversations with Inman that he had recorded. I mean, like I said, a very sophisticated hoax. If it's real, that's about as close as we ever got.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree. I was such a compelling, and to have him, tell the story about one clandestine meeting after another. Right, in bugged offices and briefcases getting searched and the communications that was going on, and by all accounts, we were that close to having this Barnum and Bailey roadside tour, ET tour across the United States. It was that close. I had completely forgotten about that. If you hadn't reminded me, we got to take a break right here, Olav. So let's do that right now. Our guest tonight, Olav Phillips. The question we are going to answer tonight is Disclosure Dead? He is the publisher and writer for Paranoia Magazine, Mysterious Magazine, his website, paranoiamagazine.com. It's Olav Phillips on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Olav at Paranoia Mag on Twitter. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
And you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Olaf Phillips. Publisher, writer, Paranoia magazine. We're talking about the question that needs to be asked. Is disclosure dead? He's got an excellent article on this over at paranoiamagazine.com, and I actually read it twice today. Olaf, you got to love Twitter. Everybody's been posting pictures of Eschler and the famous videotape from Guardian. And I'll say this: the first time that I saw the video, I was looking at, because I remember it was like behind grass, right? You know, shooting like through trees and grass, and you see this object, and you see guys walking around and stuff. Anyway, I remember my heart just pounding, like, holy crap. And about, I'm going to say about halfway through it, I went, wait a minute. Could that be a helicopter? That's what I thought. And and then eventually, I guess it was debunked or brought out that it was a helicopter. But looking at the stills here, from the video that are posted up here on Twitter, I can see why my heart skipped a beat. When you look at the stills look like a flying saucer. They do. They do. But when you watch the video, you can see the blades turning.
You can see the blades, and then you can see the rotor on the top, and then you can see the rotor in the back. Right. And it's surrounded by police cars. But and poor Bob Oshler, you know, he got excited, and I think he got a little too excited, a little too fast, and you know, they used it to basically destroy his credibility. But now you can make certain assumptions about how that went down, but what I would argue to you is that in the case of Oshler, that you were seeing the deep state okaying it, that the deep state authorized it, and then it bubbled up. And then, you know, the White House approved it and the Pentagon approved it, but really, you know, the deep state approved it, right? And then they changed their mind.
Do you think, looking back at the Eschler story about this with Barnum and Bailey and so forth, do you think that it was all a setup? That there was no intention of that they were just yanking him around?
I think it's very, very possible. I think it's very, very possible. You know, there's an old saying within disinformation that if you have a disinformation program, for example, if I want to prove to you that the sky is purple, right? You know, I'm going to tell you, well, the clouds are white, but the sky is purple. Now, it's a bold-faced lie that the sky is purple, but the clouds are indeed white. And what that's called is the golden thread. So with any disinformation program, you know, there is an element of truth to it, and it's enough truth to make you believe it. And what they may have done is to dismantle poor Bob Oshler in an effort to close it off and to say, see, it's not a UFO. UFOs don't exist. This is all BS. It's possible. They could have changed their minds. There could have been different factions within the deep state that one faction wanted to release it and for their own benefit, because you have to remember that these things are done at their leisure and at their pleasure. That the deep state is going to do what the deep state does for the deep state. And maybe their analysts decided part of the way through it that it was too dangerous, or that because, you know, one of the problems, right, and I've always had this problem with disclosure, is this notion that, well, they're going to tell us everything and we're going to be super happy about it. Well, the problem is that even if you follow everything that ufology has presented, you know, there are dozens, if not more, laws that have been broken. You know, there have been people that have been killed. The whole idea of Mill Lab, you know, if you are interested in that, you know, there are a lot of bad things that were done in the process of covering this up, and somebody would be held accountable for it.
Well,
that's humanity wants a scapegoat.
Well, and we had the famous case, man, Paul Benowitz, Richard Doty, the Air Force getting involved with him, who eventually, I mean, he died, and I think his death is directly and his insanity is directly attributed to what Richard Doty had done to him in not only in a disinfo campaign, but in the interest of the possibility of disclosure. And could this, you know, the same type of mind manipulation have been laid on to Oshler?
It's possible. I mean, I think Doty is a very complicated situation, because a lot of the things that Doty did are counter to what he was actually able to do. And at some point you have to ask yourself, you know, who was Doty working for, really? Was he working for himself? Was he working for the military-industrial complex? I mean, was he following orders as he claims, or was he cooking this thing up himself? Right?
Well, yes.
Or some combination thereof. You know, it could be a fusion of all of the above.
Do you think? I want to stay on this Doty thing for a second. Doty says, and has said publicly, I've got his phone number, man. We should call him right now. God, he just gets under my skin. He says that he doesn't feel guilty. You know, that he was just taking orders and doing his job. And he went into Benowitz's house, man, and moved his furniture around. You know, I mean, what are you doing? And he says that he was just taking orders. He was just doing his job. I have issues with that. And to mess with Benowitz, either Benowitz was on the scent, right? He had lots of photographs. He had lots of evidence, and he was doing his recordings. Was he that close to the fire that the government turned around and deliberately brought this guy down because he knew too much?
Well, you know, there's a long history of people justifying what they did because they were taking orders. I mean, they're still finding guards, you know, from concentration camps that are like, well, I was just taking orders. Or, you know, Lieutenant Cowley in the My Lai massacre, well, they ordered me to burn down the village and kill everybody. You know, it's at some point you have to stop and say, you know what, that's an illegal order and I'm not going to do that. Right? So I don't think that's an ends justifies the means kind of argument on his behalf. But, you know, the guy you want to talk to about Doty is Greg Bishop.
Yes. Yes.
He'll tell you about it. And it's interesting.
Now,
but, you know, like I said, I think that's the closest. And I think that, you know, whatever their ultimate motivation was, That was the deep state in operation. And you know, the times when a president supposedly has known about it, it's like Richard Nixon. You know, then you know that Richard Nixon had connections into the deep state. You know, and the whole story about him going to Homestead Air Force Base with Jackie Gleason, showing him the aliens and the tanks and all that stuff, and Gleason coming back and never being the same. You know, there's some evidence that at least that Gleason had gone to Homestead. Everybody knows he knew Nixon. You know, Gleason's wife said he came back a changed man. You know, but Richard Nixon's the kind of guy where you'd be like, well, you know what? If somebody's going to know about the deep state, it's Richard Nixon, right? That's why I argue that the deep state is what's in control of this, and the disclosure movement, as we understand it, and as we see it on a daily basis with their briefings and their whatever. You know, that's great, but I don't think it will amount to much.
Well, then Gleason turned around and built a flying saucer house.
Right.
Have you ever seen that? You ever seen his house?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't.
It's literally a flying saucer on landing gear. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible house. Now, the comment that I just got here from Don, he said, wait a minute, is the shadow government the same as the deep state? Are you referring to the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. It's a kind of bureaucracy. I mean, because all these things are bureaucracies, right? It's a bureaucracy that doesn't change. You know, you may elect a congressman or a president, and the president may choose a cabinet, but these are the functionaries that sit below that are not appointed. These are the people that have had their job in the CIA, the FBI, the Treasury Department, the EPA, whatever. They've been there for 30 or 40 years. You know, they know who to call for this. They know who to call for that. They know how to handle problems. You know, that's the shadow government, the deep state.
What do you think, and I totally agree with that agenda is going to continue after somebody leaves office. It was there before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, Office of Naval Intelligence, any of them, right, are going to continue, and those are career employees, right?
That's right.
You know, that have been there 20, 30, 40 years, and agenda is going to continue. Let me ask you this. Going back to Project Mockingbird, the websites that are out there, the magazines, like Paranoia magazine, I don't know, it could be a CIA front, right? And
Sure.
I'm not asking you that. Maybe I should.
I'm not. Sure, ask me.
But
I'm not.
but you know where I'm going with this. There are there's so many websites out there that say that they have information. How do we even know that those aren't, CIA-fronted outfits pushing disinfo into our community? We'll never know that for sure, will we?
I think sometimes you can. You know, I think that some of them you can figure it out. For example, you know, I always look at Veterans Today, right? The Veterans Today is always a source. You know, you go before it's news or whatever, and there's always Veterans Today says there's going to be a coup. There's no coup, but you know, if you trace the lines of who those guys are employed by, you come to very interesting ends. You know, the end of that line is a very interesting thing. You know, and if you look at like Russia Today is a very popular one. I don't know, they always seem to have the right kind of conspiracy headline that everybody jumps on. But if you look at who actually pays the bills for Russia Today, where Russia Today actually sits, I mean, where their office is, you know, and some of these other details, it's very interesting who actually is in control of some of these operations. And it's not hidden. I mean, it's public. You can figure it out. It's not hard.
Right.
Very easy.
Yeah, there are. Look, the rumors that we've all in this community have dealt with about who is, a front for the man coming out of Washington D.C. and who isn't,
or or out of Moscow,
or out of
Tehran.
Moscow. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to not visit those sites because I don't want. I don't want them to know that I was clicking on them. Oh, let's go check out this guy.
But
I do go to certain sites. I'll do a drive-by. And just to see where the trends are with some of these headlines, I try not to spend any time there or click through. But you're right. You just look at the headlines, and you can see pretty quickly if this is propaganda based and if there's an agenda there, as opposed to reporting the facts or the truth.
Right, and what I would argue to you is that the way that you find this stuff, it's like the famous thing about the Aurora, the spy plane or whatever it actually is. The way that it was discovered is that somebody made a mistake because, we live in a bureaucracy, and somebody made a mistake and they left a line item on an Air Force budget that's public domain that said Aurora program or something like that. And from that, people dug and eventually figured out that it was an aircraft. And then they dug, and then they figured out more. And that's how you figure this stuff out. That, you have to do the legwork. You have to look at the FOIA documents. You have to try to put the pieces together to come to an end result. There's no one person who's going to stand up and they're just going to crack it wide open. What you end up finding is that with some people that they put on a show that they're going, they're after this information or that information, but at the same time, they're selling videos or books or whatever, and it's like, well, what's the ultimate motivation here? Are you trying to find the truth, or are you trying to sell a book, or are you trying to, what's your agenda, right? So the real way to crack disclosure is that the population has to rise up and say, we want this. The people have to get in there and do research and find stuff that excites the imagination of the public. And then they can push for it. And then the public as an entity, as this massive 350 million people in the United States, have to call up their congressman on the same day and go, you know what? I want to know. I want to know what that is. And that's how it happens. Because you have to overwhelm the deep state.
And have we gone so far? When I say we, I'm referring to us, our community, and Washington and the military-industrial complex. Have we gone so far past the opportunity for disclosure, a real discussion about this, that we can't go backwards now? In that, if they have alien technology, which I'm sure that they do, and they've been utilizing that and not giving it to us in the free world for the opportunity of, less pollution, free energy and so forth, that they would have to admit to the lie, right? And so now we're so far past that we can't. And two, if they did disclose these strange lights that we see in the sky, that you have seen and I have seen, that it would be an admission of, that's not ET, that's us using their technology. We're too far past it now. They would have to admit to a grand lie for all of these decades. Is that why there couldn't be disclosure?
I think that's why you'll never get massive disclosure. There's not one day when the door is going to open and the big UFO book comes out, and it's like, here's everything. What you're going to get is little bits and pieces, here and there, that tell you this or that, and you're going to get quite a spin job, right? And they're going to spin it however is best for them, right? So maybe they're going to say that it's alien technology when it's actually not, that it was actually made by, people here, right? But they need it to be alien technology because they don't want our adversaries to know that we have the capability to have adaptive camouflage, or, that we can go Mach 10, or that we have, UAVs that can do this or that. So, I don't know that you'll ever get 100% of the truth. I think that you'll get closer and closer, and eventually you'll find your own truth that is somewhere in between.
Well, when it comes to Rockefeller and what he was tying himself to Hillary with, do you think that there is an extraterrestrial element within the secret government, or something that is influencing Rockefeller to do this? Do you think that there is an actual ET influence inside of the shadow government?
Well, I know Edgar Mitchell believed that there were alien intelligences that were attempting to communicate with us. My own opinion is that this kind of stuff is done by humans to humans for humans, and that there's some kind of profit motive. And profit is not necessarily money. Profit could be knowledge or power, or it could be a lot of things. It's not strictly money, but I think there's some sort of profit imperative in these programs, for sure. And whether it's just making us more powerful than our adversaries or whatever. And again, there's also another element of this, that, some things are supposed to be secret. That, as citizens of the United States, for our own defense, for our own protection, there are some things that we should not know. And that's a struggle to know, to try to decide, what should the public know, what shouldn't the public know. That's a very, very slippery slope. But there are things that we shouldn't know that protect us, right? But, I think that when you look at Rockefeller, you can't really figure out 100% his motives, but there are motives there, and I think usually 9 times out of 10 that the motives are somewhere related to a profit imperative. Because, the Rockefeller family is extremely powerful. They're extremely rich. I would imagine that, he had friends in the deep state, already. So, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to manipulate her. Well, I really am not sure.
When you said a human on human influence and not ET, what do you mean by that? Do you mean humans imitating or making things up about ET to influence others?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think a lot of times, I prefer to go along the lines of the classics. Hynek and Vallée, who would say that 10% of this stuff is probably alien, and we can't figure out what it is, and it defies logic. I've seen things that defy logic that I cannot attribute to a human, right? But I've seen other things that lights in the sky that did crazy stuff, and it's like, that's probably a person up there. But I think sometimes we have, and this is the Mill Lab thing, right, where there's some sort of rogue element in the deep state that is abducting people for some reason, and then they do implanted memories and screen memories to make them believe that they were abducted by aliens. In fact, the earliest case that I'm aware of is actually Betty and Barney Hill, that the original first hypnotic regression that Barney Hill underwent, he describes getting out of the car. He describes pulling his .45 out of his car. He had a .45, and he fired at the UFO, and then the UFO landed, and then out came people, and he was walked around. His first impression of the people in the UFO is that they were Nazis. They wore black jumpsuits with silver piping and peaked caps, and then he was led around through the UFO by a red-headed Irishman with a German Shepherd, right?
Right.
Then, after that tape, then it's aliens, 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 right? So, I think that's at least a portion of it. I'm open-minded, so I'm always very willing to say, part of it is alien. There probably are covering up some alien stuff, but I think a lot of it, the vast majority of it, 80% of it, is humans cooking up stories to tell other humans to convince them that aliens, did this or that.
Well, I agree with you there, but it's the 20% that is the game changer. And let me ask you.
I agree with you.
Yeah, let me ask you this. What if we manage to get together and present to the White House that we just wouldn't get mad? Right? We'll give you guys clemency. We'll give you guys a pardon. We'll give you, you can run with a clean slate, but just tell us that we promise not to get mad. Do you think that they would come clean?
No, because I don't think the White House is in control of it. I think that Clinton, when Clinton tried to figure out the whole Roswell thing, I think we saw that he was not in control of it. Right, and Podesta, I believe Podesta himself said, his greatest failure is that he couldn't secure the release of the information.
Well,
because he simply didn't have the clearance.
Right. Well, when the GAO, the General Accounting Office, did their thing and they tried to, through the help of New Mexico, get to the bottom of Roswell, it only took, I remember when the press release happened, and I was at work, and I got in my car. By the time I got home, and I remember reading, I was like, wait a minute, no, something doesn't seem right about this. By the time I got home, the entire release from the Air Force about what had really happened, crash test dummies and so forth.
Case closed.
Right. Roswell, case closed. They lied straight through their teeth, and it only took us minutes, or maybe a couple hours, to tear their response apart. And
sure.
I think it would be the same thing here. If they chose to lie to us about it, we would be able to pick it apart. There's too many of us out here, and too many of us that are smart.
Of course, but even with the Roswell thing, we all knew that it was BS. But it was like, well, then what?
Yeah.
We stand around and say, okay, well, it's not true, but you still haven't secured disclosure because the deep state, who's not accountable to you, has just decided that they don't want you to know for whatever reason.
Right.
Whether it was a German UFO or, whether it was aliens or whatever variant of that story, you choose to believe. The functionaries within the deep state have simply decided that you were not ready for it, or they don't want you to know, so you don't.
Yeah, Twitter just lit up. Wait. Did Olaf just poo-poo on Betty and Barney Hill?
I'm not poo-pooing on anybody. It's a fact. You can read it. Don't trust me. That's the biggest thing that I always tell people. Look, don't trust me. Go Google it.
Yeah,
it's there.
No, I remember the references to looking like German officers, but
and
the
German Shepherd. That's critical. The German Shepherd is actually, and the red-headed Irishman. It's funny that there's a little-known fact that during World War II that there were the IRA and elements of Ireland actually sided with the Germans. And they had gone to Germany and been trained by the Germans. And there was actually an Irish unit that fought in the Spanish Civil War on the side of the fascists.
Okay, I'll send all of the email to Olaf Phillips at ParanoiaMagazine.com. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Olaf Phillips. We're discussing, is disclosure dead? More with Olaf right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oh, fall. My favorite time of year. Cooler temperatures and, well, let's be honest, layers. Lots and lots of layers. Look, I get it. We all have that favorite hoodie. Matter of fact, I've got a few favorite hoodies. You should wear yours. Enjoy it. I do. But I stay focused on my health year-round. And for me, I take Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. Nature's Youth RSF from nature'syouth.com. I eat right, control my portion sizes, still maintain a commitment to regular fitness, and I get plenty of rest, and I take Nature's Youth RSF. It's okay to cover up your beach body for a few months, but don't just forget about it. Nature's Youth understands exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products, and Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain peak performance levels and fight the aging process. So layer up and get started today with Nature's Youth RSF. nature'syouth.com. Simple to use, even simpler to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Olaf Phillips, publisher, writer for Paranoia Magazine and Mysterious Magazine. You can just go to paranoiamagazine.com. He's got a great article that he just posted on Is Disclosure Dead? Now, here we go, Olaf. Not to go political, because I do the conspiracy of politics. That's how I steer my way around it, right? Okay, so
me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So that being said, that we've got a new administration in, and Richard Dolan was on the show right after the election, and I remember him saying this, and it really opened up my eyes, and I've kind of changed my view on Trump because of this. Not in a political sense, in a disclosure sense. And this is what Dolan said. Dolan said that Trump is not a guy that can keep a secret, right? He's got, he blabs. And if you tell him not to tell us something, that's the exact wrong way to do it. And so if he gets exposed to the ET question, which he will if he hasn't already by the CIA, yay or nay, it doesn't matter. But if they tell him, look, don't go to the public, this is ultra top secret stuff, but this is what's going on with ET, that's the wrong thing to say to Donald. He's his own man, and the first thing he's going to do is tweet, ET is real, right? Area 51 has got ET craft. And he would tweet that out immediately. And I tend to agree with that view of the Donald. Do we have the right guy to help us with disclosure if there is information?
I actually disagree with that. I don't think that he's as liberal with information as we think. I think that is a carefully crafted, carefully crafted narrative that he wants you to think. I think that with Trump, you like him, love him or hate him, like him or not, doesn't really matter. I think as a person, he would tweet, if they even tell him, which I'm not convinced that they would, because I think most presidents are not told. If they told him, I think that he would look at it from the point of view of what serves me best. Does it serve Donald Trump best? Speaking in the third person, right? Does it serve Donald Trump best to let it out? Does it give me more power? Does it give me more street cred? Does it give me a better approval rating? or does it serve me to keep that secret? And I think that's, for example, we know that he keeps secrets. I mean, he has not released his tax records, and he won't, right? And that's a secret, and he kept that. So I think he can, but I think it really comes down to what would benefit him directly the most.
Well, crashed alien craft are not limited to the United States. There are different
countries, by a long shot.
Right, and there are different countries around the world that know definitively what is going on, and that they've had crashes and sightings in their own countries, and so he would have to have some type of general knowledge when he's dealing with other heads of state that are in possession of this knowledge.
I disagree.
Really? Why?
I totally disagree. Yeah.
Why?
Why would he have to have that knowledge?
Okay, you don't want to be blindsided by Putin,
but he wouldn't be, because the functionaries below him would tell him what he needs to know. You have to understand is that within the government, that the way they figure out what they tell you is, what do you need to know? What's the bare minimum you need to know? That's how they keep things compartmentalized. For example, you can have a situation where you have a defense contractor, right, and they're building a nuclear reactor, like Westinghouse or something, right, and it's a top-secret reactor, and you could have a guy that is a machinist that makes a ring, and all he knows is that he makes this ring every day. Now, that would be kind of boring. I grant you that. I could not do that job. But there are plenty of people who could just make a ring all day. And then there's a guy next to him that's making a rod, right? And then there's a person next to, maybe there's a lady down the hall that is making a sheet. And eventually you put all these pieces together into a reactor. But none of them individually know that they're building parts for a reactor. They just simply know that they make a ring, a rod, and a sheet, right? So I could see a situation where, I mean, I would imagine that Putin would know a lot more because of where he comes from, but I could see a situation where, they brief him with some level of knowledge that's the bare minimum, right? Or they have a narrative that they want him to spin, which is like, Putin comes at him and says, we have UFOs that crash landed. First of all, I don't think Putin would do that, because that would betray the fact that he has them. And maybe we should take a step back for a second. So there's an imperative that exists, and the next time you have Dolan on, you should ask him about this. There's an imperative that exists within foreign policy, and the whole thing is generally believed to be based on something called game theory, which is effectively a mathematical equation that reduces a poker game down to numbers. And so mutually assured destruction and all these kind of concepts come from this concept of game theory. It was Nash developed it when he was at Rand. And the idea is that you are effectively playing a chess game. I think Zygmunt Brzezinski, I always mess his name up. It's the grand chess match, right? I mean, all these guys have analogies to like playing checkers or some sort of a game of skill, right? But it's a poker game, and Putin's not going to lay down and go, you know what, I got 15 UFOs, and Trump's going to, well, I've got 16. I mean, they're not going to do that, because it would mean that now we would know that they have UFOs, period, and then we would send in CIA guys to go figure out how many, they have, and they would send KGB guys to go figure out how many we have, and it'd just be a big mess. So, I think that they would probably instruct him to deny everything. Because if you don't know what's safe to tell somebody, you deny it all, right?
Right.
It's the easiest method. So I'm not convinced that he knows. I think most presidents don't know. I don't think Clinton knew. I think if Clinton knew, then we would know. Because remember, he tried. He sent people, multiple people, including Podesta, to go try to figure it out. And they all failed. They went to the Air Force. We got nothing. They went to the CIA. We got nothing. We closed Project Blue Book, and that's the end of it.
Well, I believe that I mean, I really believe that Trump is a conspiracy guy, right? He's got Breitbart as his, that whole crew as his, because he reads Breitbart. He's got, that's his advisors. He listens to Alex Jones, which is fine. I listen to Alex Jones. I'm a fan. But he has no problem from coming from that side when it comes to conspiracies. He's creating conspiracies like the voter fraud. Just move on.
And alternative information, which comes from,
alternative facts. So
alternative facts, which comes from 1984.
Right. Bingo. So that being said, I would assume he would go into the Oval Office and turn to the security crew that's representing all of the agencies and go, okay, I want to know who killed JFK. I want to know,
But you're assuming they know.
Well, they were probably part of it, I would think. But my point is...
Well, I think all the JFK guys are long gone.
But Olaf, you're missing my point. What I'm saying is that's Trump's mindset. I'm assuming that he would go in asking these questions and not wait to be informed on it.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you that he would want to know, so that he can make a value judgment of whether he can leverage it or not. Because remember, you're talking about a guy who is smart enough to leverage the holes in bankruptcy law to file bankruptcy. What was it, 6 or 12 times? That he used that as a financing tool. I mean, that's insane, right? But he did it because he got away with it because he understood how it worked.
Well, he's
I think he probably walked in there and said, yeah, tell me everything, but you're assuming that the people that he's asking have the answer, and I don't think they do.
He's going to need some alien tech to build that wall. For sure.
It would help.
It would definitely help.
It would help.
What I wanted to ask you about, we're going to finish this discussion, but I wanted to go back to what you said earlier, that you have seen things. What have you seen?
When I was a little kid, the first thing that set me off, I saw a huge bluish white light sit outside my second-story bedroom window, and I freaked out, and I went to the elementary school the next day. Went into the library, and I basically had to ask the librarian 3 times to tell me where the UFO stuff was. And I ended up reading Brad Steiger's Mysteries of Time and Space.
Right.
That's what kind of started me.
Right.
When I was about 12 or 13, I saw a Lazar Sportster model hanging at about 14,000 feet above my head. I mean, I could see the waveguide. I mean, it was the archetypal Lazar Sportster model. That's why I've always been a big fan of Bob Lazar.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to him, and I think he's telling the truth as he knows it. I think that he believes everything that he's saying, and he's telling you what he saw and what he knows.
Right.
I was part of a mass UFO sighting over a place called Dixon, California. I saw 14 objects having a dogfight at high altitude. I saw 2 of them peel down and run laps between 2 radio masts that were probably, 10 miles apart. And they were black triangles. I could see them flip over.
Wow.
They'd go down in the end, flip over, come back. And eventually one of them kept going toward me, and I got in the car. I was like, I don't want to get abducted, right? I went to East Seti. I saw some really crazy stuff at East Seti.
What'd you see?
Bigfoot at East Seti.
Really? Okay, hold on. Okay, Bigfoot on the back burner. But what else?
Sure.
What else did you see at East Seti?
I saw what I think is an aurora. I saw the flashes from the pulse detonation engine streak across the sky from east to west. I saw lights at high altitude doing very strange maneuvers, doing corkscrews and weaving. I saw them moving slowly, passing between me and stars, and watching the stars jiggle as it went through the adaptive camouflage. I mean, I saw a. It sounds insane, but I saw what looked like a garage door open on the side of Mount Adams.
Now I've heard reports of this, and
I saw what looked like a Stargate.
Well, tell me about the
two-dimensional Stargate.
Well, tell me about the garage door. I've seen videos of this, but I've never quite been able to see what everybody else was seeing. I totally get it though, because I've seen some crazy stuff, and I know that Gilliland is a honest, straightforward guy. But he's talked about this door on the right side of Mount Adams, from East City. Right side. What did you see?
Well, it was late at night, and the sky was particularly active. And I saw, I was watching the mountain, and basically it was small because you're quite a distance away. But I saw, theater of the mind, right? Pretend you're looking at a mountain, and the mountain's really big, okay? But you're a ways away from it, okay? And picture seeing something that's a couple, maybe an inch or two across, that looks like a folding door, maybe a quarter of an inch or a half inch, maybe a quarter of an inch high. Just watch it slowly go up like a garage door, and then it's like white. There's this like white bar because you're seeing inside the hangar. So there's this white bar where the hangar is, and you just watch the door kind of creep up at a distance, and then the door closes.
And that's what you saw.
That's what I saw.
I love it. I love it. Now, when you say something like that to this audience, they're going to listen to you. But when you say something like that, are you suggesting it's us? Or is that E.T.'s mountain?
It's hard to tell. My gut instinct is that it's our stuff, but I don't know. And I'll be honest with you that I don't know. I try really hard to go on a case by case basis and say, okay, here's a video. What does this video show? What can I understand about this video? What makes me believe this is alien versus human? I try not to make blanket statements that say, okay, well, it's all aliens or it's not aliens, or I try to take it on a case-by-case basis. I did see one thing there that I would find very highly unlikely that it was made by us. I saw what looked like basically, the Stargate from Stargate SG-1.
Right.
I saw something like that hanging in midair, and I watched lights move in and out of it. And I was seeing it from the side, so it was kind of like looking at an LED TV from the side, like a thin line, but it was slightly ajar, so I could see that it was circular.
Right.
And I watched an object, a light, go into it, but not go through it. It just went into it, and then I watched it evaporate and then come back, and the light go out of it and then evaporate. I find that highly unlikely that it was human.
How long did this take to evaporate? What kind of time scale are we talking about?
Oh, it was fast. It was kind of, you ever watch like a what is it? This sand devil, the little tornadoes.
Right.
It was kind of like that. It was that speed. Probably 20 seconds.
Right. Interesting.
It just kind of like evaporated, phased out.
The famous sighting that I had with everybody else, the mass sighting over at a Contact in the Desert, I saw a couple of things the first night on that Saturday. And what was interesting is, and I've said this so many times, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but where the object, which was a green chrome ball off in the distance, where it started was at the side of this well, it's not quite a mountain, in between a big ass hill and a mountain, right? I don't know, 5,000 feet or something.
Big ass still works for me.
But yeah, right. And and I could see the silhouette of the mountain, and that's where it started from. Now, when I hear about ECETI and Mount Adams and this garage door thing, like I said, I've seen probably 4 or 5 videos of it. But did I? I didn't see where this object originated from. But I've in my mind's eye, I'm not creating anything. I'm not going further with this, everybody. I'm not suggesting at all that there was some kind of door, because I don't. The depth of field where I was, and it was at night, I don't know how close this was to the mountain, but it started, the silhouette, the ball started from the side of the mountain as it shot up into the stars and disappeared. It was a pretty crazy sighting, though.
It's not. I mean, it's not beyond human engineering to build a underground facility that large. I mean, there's a place in Russia in the Urals called Kosmotev, and it's a huge mountain, and they've basically hollowed it out. And there's another one called Yamato, and I mean, these are huge mountains, and they basically hollowed them out. So it's possible humans could do it. So I don't know. I mean, it was a garage door. I'm not joking. It looked like a garage door, and I'm a sane. I think you can tell I'm a sane, rational guy, and it was a garage door. But I go back and forth whether it's alien or human, but that vortex thing that looked like the Stargate SG-1 thing, that was not human. I had no idea what I saw.
Yeah.
It was a flat vortex, like Stargate SG-1. That kind of, it had that kind of look to it. It's the only way I can describe it. And to watch things move in and out of it while it's hanging in midair, I mean, it's insane.
Now, what do you think about the other part of the modern UFO phenomena, which is cloaking technology and things? I've seen so many videos. A lot of it is CG and it's fake, but there's a couple out there that I've seen that have been pretty interesting. In and out of clouds, and if something was going to hide in our sky and it had intelligence, well, you're going to duck behind a cloud.
Oh, sure. There's a guy in New Orleans that I know by the name of Sean. He wrote a book. I forget the name of it offhand. But, yeah, he finds this stuff all the time. These weird objects hanging in clouds over Louisiana. I've seen some kind of cloaking technology. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. It does exist. I don't know if it's alien or human, but it does exist. It is real.
I have the one sighting that I still blows my mind was the one that I had up in Monterey, and I'm not going to get into the detail. I've told the story too many times, but I watched this triangle, pyramid is a better way to describe it. And it was up, 50,000 feet, some crazy height up. In my photographs, it looks like a little black dot, like a pin, like, the tiniest of dots, but you put a jeweler's loop on it and you look at the photograph. This isn't digital. This is a 35 millimeter. And you look at it, you can see that it's a pyramid, right? Way up high. But this thing stopped at the edge of this cloud and then took off and went straight up into the blue sky. It was like, and I've often thought that's what it was doing, like a criminal that's running down the street and ducking behind a wall. It was, it's kind of that kind of vibe. It stopped. It's after hauling balls too across the sky. I have no idea. Mach 10 would have been going backwards. It was really fast. So anyway, but it stopped and then just and went straight up into the blue sky and disappeared.
Well, the one that I saw, it looks like a triangle, not like an equilateral triangle, but it looked like a triangle, and it was high. I mean, it was higher than maybe 70 or 80,000 feet. I mean, it was high, and it was cruising along. It was not going fast. It was going at a very metered rate, and I could watch it. I mean, I watched it for a long time. And there, obviously up there, the skies are clear, and There's tons of stars. I mean, it's beautiful, right? Well, I watched it fly in between me and a star. And initially the star disappeared, and then I saw the star reappear on what should have been the belly of whatever this was, and the star was jiggling. It was kind of vibrating. And then it went past the star, and then the star stopped vibrating, and it was solid again. So like solid disappeared for a second, vibrating, disappearing for a second, then it's, stable again. That's what I saw.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
I saw that a couple times that night.
Well, see, and this is where, when we're talking about disclosure, and you and I having this type of discussion here, obviously there's some technology going on. Whether it's ET or not, the rest of the world doesn't have it. And one of the examples, when you look at the B-2 bomber and you look at our other stealth aircraft, right? As good as the Russians are and as good as the Chinese are, their planes still look like planes, right? The big Russian bombers, the Bear, it's a turboprop, right? It's a turboprop. Right, it is a dual bladed turboprop. It has two blades. It's got
props.
Let's not beat around the bush here. That's like Kitty Hawk, Ohio technology compared to what we.
But their motivation is different, right? Their approach to warfare is different. I mean, in Russia, they have these long stretches of road, these straightaways, and they have these kind of turnouts on the side. It's because, their freeways are designed to be used as airfields. I mean, they have a kind of different motivation. They built the T-72 so that they could pull parts out of trucks and repair it.
Yeah, no doubt, but they don't have that ET tech, man. They're not where we are.
Maybe. I mean, well, I'll tell you, they launched something that we never did. There was a thing called the Polyus skiff.
Yep.
And it was a freaking battle station. It had lasers and all kinds of stuff on it. They put that thing in orbit. I mean, they had an armed battle station in orbit for a very long time.
Yes, they did.
The Almaz.
Yep,
the Almaz.
I just talked about it. Yes, they had Gatling guns in space, man. And
they had a 20 millimeter recoilless cannon mounted on the end of the Almaz.
Yep.
But the Polyus skiff, I mean, it was enormous. If you remember the orange tank on the shuttle that had the big fuel tank,
right?
It was that size.
And it was one of the coolest things too, looking, that you have ever seen. We got to take a break right here, Olav. So let's get that in. Our guest tonight is Olaf Phillips. I'm going to open up the phone lines. You want to take some phone calls?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. 323-82... I'm afraid. Be very afraid. 323-825-5045. Opening up the phone lines is Fade to Black with Olaf Phillips. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
You've probably heard about all the great benefits of goat milk soap, but did you know some companies take shortcuts? At Old New England Soap, we make our organic goat's milk soap using 36% goat's milk. That's 17% more than most others. Our bars are larger, so they last longer, producing lots of lather packed with vitamins. And our soap is a natural moisturizer that smooths dry and damaged skin. Order online at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. oldnesoap.com.
Water-based soaps on supermarket shelves use harsh chemical acids to break down dead skin cells. And that's just not good for you. At Old New England Soap, our soaps are made without chemical ingredients, contain no alcohol or petroleum products, and use 85% organic materials and carry the USDA's organic certification. Try some today. Go to oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. oldnesoap.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have sciatica, then you know all about the crippling pain that travels from your lower back down your leg when a spasm occurs. It's brutal. In fact, it's enough to take your breath away. Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream helps relieve persistent, shooting pains associated with the sciatic nerve in the lower back and legs. This natural, homeopathic cream contains the most potent ingredients to soothe even the most excruciating pain associated with sciatica. Stop the pain now. Ask for Dr. Zhang's Sciatica Nerve Cream at your local health food store or go online to trasknutrition.com.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Opening up the phone lines, 323-825-5045. Our guest tonight, Olav Phillips. We're talking about, is disclosure dead? And it was kind of funny. Earlier tonight, Olav goes, man, let's light a few fires. Well, we have. Olav, I want to go back. What about your comments on Betty and Barney Hill? And Mark wants to know, how do you explain the star map that Betty drew? How do you explain that away?
You know, it's interesting. The star map, as I remember seeing it, is orientated from the point of view of the Earth out, with a bunch of transit lines from the Earth to various locations, right? But the origin is the Earth, if I remember correctly. Now, when I was a college student, I studied anthropology. And when I took linguistic anthropology, we did a very interesting kind of test. And it was actually part of our test. And not to bore the audience, this answer could be a little boring, but the sum total of it is that cultures in general, now I'm talking about, humans, right? Because an alien may think in a completely radically different way. That's one of the problems I have with some of this alien stuff, is that you can't ascribe human values to an alien because you can't figure out what their motivation is. But the star map in particular, if I remember correctly, is orientated from the Earth out. And humans in general will orientate maps from the home spot out, right? So when you give directions, and it's an interesting thing to think about, but when you give directions to somebody, and they're from your town or neighboring town, you say, okay, well, go down to the big brown tree and turn right, and keep the river to the left, and you should see a mountain to your right. It's all orientated against common topology. So if you were assuming that an alien would think in a similar kind of way, you would orientate the map from your home out.
Well, didn't they say to her, "You are here"?
They did.
Right.
But but all that, that could be screen memories as well, right? This is a very common feature in in abductions, that there are screen memories, and there's a whole thing about the owl. If you see an owl, and that's interesting because an owl, is demonstrative of some Illuminati things too, right? New World Order stuff, that they have these symbols of the owl, like the Bohemian Grove and other places.
Right.
So it is possible that the star map, is a contrived screen memory, or it may actually be aliens. But what I know is that the initial hypnosis session is very different from the rest of them.
Have you read An Interrupted Journey?
I have. I own it.
Yeah.
And I have the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah,
Fantastic
great movie.
movie.
Yeah, fantastic movie, no doubt.
It is.
When Marjorie Fish did the breakdown of her 3D star map that she had done as a school teacher, and then saw the similarities and was able to pick it apart. What was interesting for all of that to happen, including with Marjorie Fish, was at that time, certainly in 1962, 63, 64, 65, when these sessions were going down and this information started to come forward, we didn't know what was out there yet. We didn't have the satellites out there looking on the other side of the sun. We had no clue about what was there. So that was always an interesting part of it for me that added to the court case here.
Sure.
So,
sure. And if if you want to talk about UFOs, right? There's the whole, UFOs are absolutely possible. They could have been abducted by aliens, right? It is completely feasible. And a case in point is when they launched Sputnik, right? The first satellite ever launched.
Right.
Ground stations in the United States and the Soviet Union tracked something following Sputnik.
Right.
How's that possible? Now, they explained it away going, well, it was part of the rocket, but the rocket, re-entered. There's no real explanation for that. And the same thing happened with Explorer 1, which was our first satellite. We launched it, and there's something that followed it. Long delay echoes. You can fire, you can fire transmissions out to a launch point, and you'll get delaying echoes coming back, and that was observed in the early 1900s, way before the space age existed. Right, the guys in Norway were sending radio messages out. So it's completely possible that they were abducted by aliens. I'm simply pointing out that in the original hypnosis, that it a redheaded Irishman with a German Shepherd doesn't sound like an alien to me.
Right. Yeah, I can get that. Well, also the trailing object behind Sputnik also changed directions, right?
Yeah.
Now
it maneuvered. And it changed speed.
And also it reversed its orbit at one point too, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that isn't floating debris.
No.
To the best of my knowledge, I wanted to jump forward really quick as we're lining up phone calls here. The SSP, when we talk about the secret space program, we have to involve the SSP in a disclosure discussion for a lot of different reasons. But as we get into that, what's your definition of the secret space program?
I think that it's a parallel space program to the public space program that we see. So when we see NASA or the ESA or the Japanese space agency or the Russians or the Chinese or anybody else, this is a public space program. The secret space program would be something that's done covertly in parallel.
Why do it? Why do it? In other words, why not have the public version or the why not have it public unless there's another reason? Is it to militarize space? in defense of ET? Do they know that there's something going on, or is it to shoot other satellites out of orbit that are Russian or Chinese?
I think that this is actually where you get the deep state, right? Then I think that the SSP, as we can define it, is a transnational operation. That this is something that exists outside of political constructs as we understand them. The notion of the nation state is set aside. And there are two, this is where I sound nuts. There are two competing objectives, I think. One is that I think there is or was a German-oriented program, like a Nazi program, that they're responding to, that they're up there and they're responding to that. And I think the second is that there's a long-term plan in place to deal with some sort of a coming event, some sort of an extinction-level event. I mean, I wrote an article about it, actually in relation to the X-Files miniseries, because the X-Files miniseries actually lays it out for you, surprisingly. And we're in something called the sixth extinction, and I think that there are preparations in place to move us off-world, at least some of us, the people that they think matters, at least. And I wrote a book about it, explaining it, but I think that it was laid out predictive programming style in a film called Alternative 3.
I knew that was my next question. We'll get back to that in just a second. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Olaf Phillips. You're live.
Hi, Olaf.
You're live right now.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it. I thought there was a long line. Anyway, my question is that just to preface it, is that I first heard you on Gaia being interviewed, and I'm actually born and raised in the Bay Area. I was intrigued by the information you had with regards to the East Bay Wall, and wondered if you have gotten any updated information about that.
Oh, the East Bay Wall. It's a passion of mine, so I just kind of tick away at it slowly. What I've been able to determine is that the East Bay Wall, for people who don't know, there's a mysterious wall that runs along the ridge line from the Carquinez Straits past Berkeley and Oakland and down into Fremont. And there's a set of hills, East Bay Hills there. And there's this mysterious wall that runs from one end of it to the other. And then it goes inland to Mount Diablo, which is a very big mountain that everybody in the East Bay can see. But it kind of runs out to there. And nobody's been able to adequately explain it. And it pretty much predates everything, and nobody can figure it out. What I was able to determine so far is that it's not alone, that there's actually a number of these structures from about Fresno north to the Oregon border.
How tall?
And
how tall is this wall?
It ranges from about 3 feet high to about maybe 5 feet, 6 feet.
And how's it constructed?
It's stacked rocks.
Really? So
yeah, it's weird.
Are you saying before that it was built before we got to San Francisco in the 1850s, 1800s?
Well, the Spaniards reported it having been there. And the interesting part is that the Native Americans in this area did not build monumental architecture. They didn't stack stones.
I want to see pictures. I want to see pictures of this. Somebody in Twitter post some pictures of the East Bay Wall.
It's crazy.
I want to go back to the caller. What's your name?
My name's Diane.
Diane. The reason why you went to the front of the line is because you're a first-time caller. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, right. I feel special. I did look up the map that contained the rest of the wall, quote wall, that's what we're calling it, in Northern California. I noticed that a large amount of the stones were, especially around the Butte and Mount Shasta, And I wondered
That's
what
correct.
your thoughts were as to why.
Yeah, so the Sutter Buttes and Shasta have high concentrations of these weird walls, and they basically ring it, and there's kind of like an outer ring and an inner ring and a bunch of bisecting walls within it. It almost looks, when you look at the walls, it almost looks city-ish. It's really up in the air. I mean, that's where I get a little metaphysical, and it could be Lemurians for all I know. I can't really figure out who built them. All I can do is find them, and I'm trying to figure it out. The Yurok, actually, from up along the Oregon border, the Yurok actually have stories of people that descended out of Shasta. One of them was called the Deer Friend, and these white people, they were white. These white people descended off the mountain and taught them how to build walls and taught them how to hunt and fish and to do these things. And then one day they became, how should I put it? They kind of got tired of it. They were world weary, I guess, to use an elfin kind of comparison. And they left and they went north, up toward Oregon, and they vanished, and they left one guy behind. It was called the Deer Friend, and the Deer Friend could actually communicate with animals and deer. And, he stayed there for a long time until he eventually, he died. And one interesting side note, since you're from the Bay Area, there's actually I want to say it was like a 7 or an 8 foot tall skeleton that was found when they were building the train station in Concord. Mm-hmm. And the Smithsonian came out. And, of course, the big skeleton disappears, right? That's the big thing about these big skeletons. They always disappear. Well, the guy came out from the Smithsonian, and he could not identify it. But what he did identify, and this is interesting, is that it had in the grave goods, the stuff that he was buried with, it was a guy, there were things in there that came from Shasta, the Native Americans from the Shasta region and Siskiyous. And there were grave items from the Native Americans in the Buttes buried with this 8 foot tall skeleton. And he identified some weird, projectile points, like arrowheads and spear points that he believed were Filipino in origin, which were strange.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm looking at pictures here of the East Bay walls. And right. I'm at a holy crap moment here. I've never. That's why I love this show. And thank you, Diana, for doing this.
Yes, thank you. I love that topic.
Yeah, I did not know anything about this, and it's huge. I mean, this thing is
enormous.
I had no idea. Hey, Diana, thank you for the phone call, and don't be a stranger, okay? We love first-time callers.
I'm sure I'm hooked. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's why I love this audience. And let's bring in. Did I just? Oh no! All right.
There's a good American on Earth. That was actually on American Earth with Scott Walter talking about it. So if you actually want to see video of it, watch the American on Earth. It's like Marco Polo, I think. You can actually see us walking next to you. You get a good idea of how tall it is and how expansive it is.
How many miles are we talking about here? I'm looking at some shots going across these hilltops and through these valleys, and it's contiguous too as well.
Yeah, it's contiguous. It actually goes down when there's like a gully. It actually goes down the gully and then goes back up the other side. It's a contiguous wall. And what's weird is that up at the top of those hills, there's nothing up there. There's no trees or anything. I mean, it's very barren. In fact, the cows don't even go up there.
There's some sections, I'm looking at so many different pictures, there's some sections where the construction is very, very cool. But you have to stop and ask yourself because these are open fields. Where do the rocks come from? These boulders?
They came from around there. I mean, the rocks are from the general vicinity. But what it is it's a massive undertaking. It took a long time to build it. I mean, you're talking 20 miles just on the East Bay wall. It's probably, 10, 20 miles long.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It just disappears off into the distance. I'm looking at
and
an
that's
aerial
just
shot.
one part.
Right. Wow, the East Bay walls. Who would have thunk? Okay.
It's bizarre.
Okay, back to the secret space program.
Right.
Oh, man. Diana, thank you for blowing my mind. I had no clue. And
Well, you want another one that'll blow your mind? So there are chunks of the wall, especially in Tilden Park, where like an acorn fell into the wall, and actually the tree, an enormous tree, grew out of the wall and broke the wall apart because the acorn rooted inside the wall. It's that old. I mean, you're talking an enormous, oak tree.
Right.
That gives you an idea of the time scale that you're talking about.
I think
and Walter himself, he couldn't identify the time, but he said that there's a kind of crust that forms on it. He said the crust was so thick that it had to be pretty old.
Yeah, I'm looking at here, this looks like, okay, if it was modern, I'm talking about, let's say, 200 years old, 250 years old, right, American Indians? It doesn't look like that. This looks like it's ancient. This looks old.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to put anything on it that said some sort of mysterious group of people came to California, I think the wall is the proof of that.
Right.
Now, Lemurians and Mu and all that, did they have high technology? Did they fly airplanes around and have crystal pyramids and that kind of stuff? I don't know. But what I do know is that it is proof that somebody was here in this state, 15 miles from my house, that predated about everybody else.
It would have taken there wasn't that many Indians, right? I mean, I'm seeing that this was and this one shot that I'm looking at here of the East Bay walls. That's a massive undertaking. That's a lot of people.
They're hunters and gatherers. They don't build, we're not talking about Cahokia, right, where they built like a pyramid. You're not talking about like Aztecs, the Inca, the Maya, you're not talking about the Pueblo, Indians and the other groups where they actually built structures. They did not build structures. They were hunter-gatherers. They would, gather food, and they were very subsistence-based, and they would go in a kind of a transit loop where they would kind of, go in a circle of places that they liked that had water and lots of food and, and things to hunt, and they would just move around. They didn't build stuff like that. It's completely inconsistent with anything they'd ever done.
I'm looking
but there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I'm looking at some what's the word? Movies, video flying over, right? And it's perfectly bleeping straight.
Straight. It is.
I mean, that is as straight as anything. I am blown away. I got to put this video up right now on Twitter.
But it's not aligned. It's not aligned to anything celestial. It's literally a straight line across the tops of the hills. And the other thing is that the wall, even the East Bay wall, crosses like groups. So there were groups, multiple groups that this wall runs through, and some of them didn't like each other. So, you would have to have, competing groups working together to build this wall. Why would they bother? And when you're talking about hunter-gatherers or, that kind of subsistence pattern, that kind of culture, it's like, if you're going to do something like that, there has to be an imperative. There has to be some reason why you'd build this huge wall. There has to be a point. Humans don't do things just for fun. I mean, there's an objective in mind. They were doing it for some reason, and the reason escapes me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know it's not an Amish farmer. That's for sure.
No. I mean, it's now. This is the other question. I mean, is does it extend below the surface?
It does.
How far down? Do you have any idea?
Oh, we dug down about maybe 2.5 feet.
And it continued, and it was there.
Yeah.
So that means the sections that I'm looking at in this aerial shot, it looks like it's about 5 or 6 feet tall, very consistent, but the actual wall itself could be 8 feet. Right. Wow, this is crazy.
Why would you do it? And again, as Diane pointed out, they are scattered across all of California from Fresno to the Oregon border.
My mind is blown. It's completely blown. Okay, I got to get you to hang on for some overtime because I've got some more phone calls.
Yeah, sure.
So everybody that's on hold, you can hear me right now. Just stay right there. We'll come back and take some more phone calls next. But I do want to get back to the SSP really quick. Do you think that the SSP is also the version of the SSP that, say, Corey Goode has been talking about, that it is there and that there are things going on inside of our own solar system that we need the SSP here for?
No, I don't. I think that there are two. The narrative that I believe is that there are two competing factions. That there's a German-oriented faction that may still exist or may not. But I think that there's a German-oriented faction, a fascist German-oriented faction, and then there's also this element of some sort of coming problem that they're planning for. I don't think they're fighting aliens or anything like that.
Well, what about the tie-in because of the German element here? What's going on right now in Antarctica? We have that issue too as well.
Right. I think I definitely, especially now that they found that facility up in the Arctic. I mean, granted, it was just a weather station, but it shows that the Germans were thinking along those lines. So.
Yeah, and
I do believe in Base 211.
Yeah, well, when we start to connect these dots here with what we know as fact, as the fact side of things, and certainly with Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump,
right.
And those same dots do get connected with what Corey Goode is presenting here. Could Corey be just what he says he is, though? That's the thing. I mean, we don't actually know anything.
I have to investigate it more. I mean, from my perspective, I'm a nuts and bolts kind of guy. And so the first thing, when I decided that I wanted to try to figure out if something like Base 211 could have existed and the whole Bell thing and Hans Kammler, where did the Bell go, where did the scientists go, and all this, I tried to look at it from a nuts and bolts point of view. And there's a rather large transport that was originally designed by the Germans, and the Junkers company built it. That they originally wanted to use as the America bomber. It was supposed to have the range to get to New York, to drop an A-bomb on New York. Well, if you look at the range of that thing, that if they were able to refuel it somewhere around Africa, then it could have easily made it all the way to Antarctica. Now, it would be running on fumes, but it is possible. And when you investigate it further, there are two sizes of that aircraft. There's a smaller one. The number escapes me, but it's a Junkers transport. The smaller one was actually fitted in the 40s to do in midair refueling. So if they were able, if what I've read is true, and they were able, those tests were indeed, successful, then they could very well have fueled it over Africa and flown it all the way down. And then you look at the U-boats that kept appearing, off the coast of Argentina. I think the last one was caught was like 6 or 8 months after the war ended.
That's right.
This guy hit his U-boat in like an estuary.
Yep.
And the fact that Perón was hanging out with Otto Skorzeny and a whole bunch of other stuff, it lends some credence to them having had a facility of some capacity there.
Let's jump in right there, take a break. Our guest tonight, Olaf Phillips, publisher of Paranoia magazine. And if you're on hold, stay right there. More of your phone calls next. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my... It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go back, Lee Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Follow Olav at Paranoia Mag on Twitter. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I got to hand it to you, Olav. East Bay walls, man. I'm looking at this. This is crazy stuff. And just when you think I've got, you get a grip on our world, something like this gets dropped into your lap. And I got to tell you, man, my brains just kind of blew out all over the bunker here. This This is pretty trippy. This is big stuff. I'm definitely going to look into this over the next couple of days. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. You're live. Yes.
Hi, Jimmy. This is DJ in Kansas City.
Hi, DJ in Kansas City. Say hi to Olav Phillips.
Oh, he's my idol, dude. I've really loved his extensive research and on the SSP program. I mean, they give an Oscar, he would get it.
Yeah, I'm right with you there.
Thank you.
I'm right with you there. What do you have for Olav? What do you have for Olav tonight?
I got a quick comment. How's your lovely Rita tonight?
She's the best, and she's down the hall, and she's causing trouble.
Okay. Yeah, that's typical. I got a comment for you, bro. You still owe me a Peter Frampton story, if you recall. I'm going to call in tomorrow night and catch that.
A Peter Frampton. Oh, you have a Peter Frampton story.
Yeah, you have the Peter Frampton story for me that you haven't told me yet.
Oh, I have a Peter Frampton story.
Yeah. Remember I was talking about Tommy Bolin?
Right.
And I seen him in '76 in Denver. Peter Frampton was a feature band, but Boland opened for him.
Right.
And then as we got to talking about it, you said you had a Frampton story for me.
Oh, man. I have, I think I remember that phone call, but the thing is, I'm not too sure where my mind was going that night with Frampton.
That's fine.
But
anyway, I got a little story for Olav.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll be real quick. My dad was in the Army, and in 1950, there was 20 people nationwide that got selected to attend this was a counter-espionage terrorism class in Fort Holabird, Maryland.
Okay.
And there was only 20 people. Okay, then after that, it was like 2 years later, he was in the secret space program. I mean, I'm not really going to go into detail or anything, but, maybe I can at another time. But I have a quick question for you, Olaf.
Sure.
Do you remember when Gary McKinnon hacked into the government NASA computers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. My question for you is, he come up with some ship names, and I really remember them well because they're named after Navy men. And they had an extra S on it. It was the USSS LeMay.
Right.
Right.
And USSS Fillencoder.
Yep.
Both.
Right.
Have you ever heard of those ships?
Only in relation to McKinnon. I mean, LeMay would make some sense, right? Curtis LeMay founded Strategic Air Command. Helen Cotter supposedly was the head of Majestic 12, but he was one of the functionaries of Majestic 12, and so. But no, I've never seen them anywhere other than things about McKinnon. But what's interesting about McKinnon is that a lot of what he found, as far as I know, was like the leftovers of bureaucracy. Right? It was movement orders of material and people, and kind of the kind of leftover garbage that you should have just shredded, but you were too lazy. That seems like a lot of the stuff that he found, and I find that interesting because what you want to find is like schematics, and I mean he found some photos if I remember correctly.
Well, he found
doctored.
Yeah, he found one, and it never finished on the screen. If you remember, he says it was starting to, and he could see the edge of the earth, and he could see the ship there and started to describe it. But that's when the mouse grabbed control of the screen. Somebody was, which was the truth, actually, as it came out. Somebody was walking by the computers and saw that somebody had control of the computer, went over and shut the computer down. And then they traced it back to him. So what's fascinating about the Gary McKinnon story is everything that he said as far as the logistics go, how he got in, how many times he got in, and so forth, and how he got caught. All of that is fact. That's all been backed. That's all been backed up.
And their reaction that they really went after him. I mean, they really went after him. I mean, if you think of like Kevin Mitnick, he did far more. And what's he now? He's a security consultant that can't touch a computer.
Right.
But McKinnon, they wanted to literally throw him in Guantanamo.
Right. So with McKinnon and all he was doing was searching UFO, right? That was his search term, right? That's all he was.
Right.
And it's such an innocent, almost like a childlike fascination, which is what he had. I don't think that Gary, even he will tell you he was not a gray hat or a white hat or a black hat or some crazy hacker with this, crazy knowledge. No, he was an installer, and his job was to go in and he knew that nobody changed their passwords. So he was looking for he had a little piece of software that he could install to look for computers whose passwords were admin, right? Unchanged password. And that's it. Hey, DJ, thank you for the phone call, my friend.
Awesome phone call.
Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow night, Jimmy.
You got it, DJ. Thank you for the phone call. Great phone call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Olaf Phillips.
Hi, Olaf Phillips. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead. What's your name?
Go for
My name's Quentin Johnson.
Hi, Clinton.
And I was on Google Earth, and I've had like over 40 videos of discoveries. And you know that one Antarctic hatched UFO base opening, they call it?
Right.
The one with the hatch on it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and 2 miles from that, I found on my YouTube, it's called Love Me Some Knowledge is my channel name, and it's called New Antarctica Algae Light Discovery. 2 miles from Hollow Earth opening everyone knows about. And I've been finding buildings and pyramids everywhere, all over.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Email Olaf. You can nail him right off of his website and send it to us, and we would love to check it out.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I got like 40 videos. I found some in Nunavut, Canada, and it's in a national park, so it never gets touched or nothing. And it's actually awesome, actually.
Well, send it to us.
Yeah,
man.
I want to check it out.
Yeah, we would love to. I would love to see it. And what was your name again, Clint?
Quentin Johnson from Canada, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, we can tell from your accent, Quentin.
Yeah, I imagine,
All right, man.
Right on. This is awesome. Yeah, I wanted to get these informations out. I didn't want to, let everybody know, and it's part of history. The whole world needs to know.
Yeah, absolutely, Quentin, and thank you for the phone call. You have direct access to Olaf. He's easy to get to. Okay, and I would love to check it out.
I'm easy to find.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Quentin.
Sure.
This is the thing, Olaf. I don't know if you've done this. I know that you have, but is getting on Google Earth and cruising around Antarctica. It's so big, right?
It's weird.
But man,
it's weird.
I see a lot of stuff there that just shouldn't be, right? Either it's snow and ice, right? Or it's not. And when and you start to see these anomalies down there, and I've done it for hours and hours and hours to where I've just had to have given up. But when I'm doing it, I find myself going, wait a minute, what is that? And zooming in, and what is, wait, what is that?
Oh, it's a time sink. You can get going on Google Earth in general and find all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, that's, when I did the East Bay Wall thing, I mean, that's when I started to put it together. But I actually used the Google Earth app, and I had gotten the files of other people who had found walls, and I overlaid them on the walls that I had found. That's when the patterns started to emerge.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Awesome.
I'm wondering if some of these images that have been posted up here are yours. I just looked at a map. Somebody just posted with yellow lines with the walls overlaid. That's you?
That's me.
Dude, that's insanity.
I know.
I mean, that's insanity. What is going on here? This is not. It's not imagination, right?
No, it's not. It's not. And the neatest thing of all, granted, to get to the East Bay Wall here, if you go to the best preserved chunk of it, it's a 3-mile hike up a hill, and it's a pretty rough hike. My son and I took it. It's rough. It'll take you a while, but you can visit it. I mean, you can, it's in Tilden Park, and it's in the Sutter Buttes and around Shasta. I mean, you can go visit it. It's not hidden. It's there. If you want to touch it, it's totally possible.
Well, and the big map that I'm looking at here that I think that you did with the rock mountain in the middle with all of the walls around the outside, there's something repeating here in a geometric type thing. I can't. Oh, yeah. It's almost snowflake-ish. There's something geometric going on. I know you see the same thing, but what do you see in those patterns?
I see a city.
Yeah. And it's
I see a city. I don't see roads, but I see it. I see structures. The way that it's laid out, it looks like structures. At least when you look at the Sutter Buttes and Shasta and some of the other ones, they're in circles. The predominant geometric shape that I find in it is circular. And it's almost like you build a city around the base of the mountain.
And a lot of it is random, but there is a lot of north, south, east, west, straight as an arrow, right angle things going on here. I don't see hunter gatherers doing this.
No, it's out of. I mean, if you've ever studied hunter gatherers, it's completely out of context for hunter gatherers to do it. I mean, it just makes no sense. They wouldn't do something like that. Because, number one, they're clan-based, they're families, they're small. You're talking 20, 30 individuals, because you're living off the land. You can't support a massive group of people. So you would have to have some organizational structure to make groups of the, effectively families, linked together to build this contiguous wall just in the East Bay that's probably, 15 miles long.
Yeah, and
it'd take years.
This illustration that I'm looking at here, this overlay that you've done with Pennington to the north, right, and Sutter to the south, how many miles are we talking about here?
Oh, I don't even know. It's crazy. It's a lot.
It's big.
It's big, and it cuts across. It cuts across up by Vacaville, not Vacaville, up by Vallejo. It cuts across, and then it hits like Point Reyes and goes north. I mean, it's just massive.
Man.
And it's very defined. It stops at the Oregon border where the Klamath Native Americans live. It stops. And, I'm a big fan of David Hatcher Childress, and he, in one of his books about, the West and, like, lost cities of the West.
Right.
There's a very brief mention that supposedly there's a lost city outside of Klamath Falls, which is about, where the stuff ends. And there's also a story in the Yurok and the Klamath. There's a story about little people, which is a whole nother show, but there's a story about these little people that occupied that space along the border.
Right.
That in a single night that they built a reservoir. And I think the reservoir is still there, that it's like a rectangle. You
right,
can actually,
right.
I think go and, yeah.
I've heard the
story. And they
story.
built it in like one night.
Yeah, I've heard the story. Okay, time for one more phone call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. What's up, Eric? Say hi to Olav Phillips.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going good.
Hey, I'm actually in San Francisco, right across the East Bay, and I'm from the East Bay, but we're going to Shasta tomorrow. It's kind of crazy that we're hearing about this tonight. And we're going to check out pretty much all the things you've been discussing. We've been kind of investigating. Can you tell me where exactly should I go? Because, Shasta, where do I need to go to find these things? Can you help me out?
Gosh, there's a map. If you search for it, you'll find my article. There's a map where you can get a pretty good idea, and there's some other people that have charted the walls up by Shasta. The other place that on Shasta, I don't know if you can get there because of the snow, but the Panther Meadow up in the very upper levels, supposedly, if you go to Panther Meadow, you can meet Lemurians and stuff.
Man, this one shot here of the East Bay Wall where it's going across the gully, it's got to be 30 feet tall right here. This is crazy.
It's
Eric,
insane.
Eric, you've got to take some pictures, man. Shoot some video.
I'll take pictures. Can I be just your guest available if I want to communicate with them somehow tomorrow to kind of I mean, because I know it is snowing, but we're going to come back and we'll go through the East Bay on the way back in a few days. So I'm all down for taking pictures, and I'll post them on Fade to Black. I just need a little help.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'd love to see him.
Yeah, he's one of my producers, Olav. So I'll make sure you guys get hooked up. He's got
Okay, right on, and as soon as I get some pictures, I'll post them on Fade to Black. And appreciate this is great. I'm excited about seeing Shasta.
Yeah, no problem. Olav, he's got Fade to Black license plates on his car. How cool is that?
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Eric, man, I can't wait to see.
Okay, I got you on Twitter, so I'll tweet you. I'll direct message you with Awakening Man, Eric. I'll send you a tweet tomorrow morning, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for taking my call, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Wow, how cool is that? He's already up there. And
cool.
I mean, he's not going to play around with this, man. You know, he's gonna photograph this all the way to Shasta. I am tripping out, and I just want before we go any further, I want to thank you for the conversation tonight. It was fascinating, and all the phone calls that came in. But for everybody out there, Olav, you've got a lot of stuff going on. We got to talk about the Conspiracy Channel. Holy crap, man! I forgot about that too as well. All right, what's the best way for everybody to reach out to you and see what you're doing?
Just go to paranoiamagazine.com.
That's it?
Or Twitter or Paranoia Mag. Yeah.
Okay. And tell us about the Conspiracy Channel, that app. I was goofing around a couple of months ago, and I just
had
Roku. Yeah, and I was using Amazon TV or a Fire Stick, and
that's God's name escapes him. Forgetting everybody's names. He lives up in Canada. Yeah, the Conspiracy Channel.
Yeah, and I was talking to Freeman Fly about it a couple of weeks ago. He goes, dude, man, that's Olaf Phillips, man. That's his thing. So
yeah, well, we also Paranoia has a presence on OSI 74. If you've got a Roku, it's in the channel guide. We have we put up old conspiracy videos and movies, the classics, and we rotate them around. There's a lot of good content on there if you like horror movies and sci-fi and kind of goofy stuff. Check out OSI 74, OSI74.com.
Okay, we will. Thank you so much, and what a great conversation tonight. And again, we got to get you back on. We left so much stuff on the table, but that's the beauty of having you on the show. We can go anywhere we need to go. And tonight it was the East Bay Walls, man. I'm just blown away. Thank you so much.
Well, it's always an honor. It's always an honor to come on Fade to Black. I mean, you got a great show, and I love coming on. It's always you got the Fadernauts are the best, and I enjoy talking to them, and so yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
You're a member of the family, Olaf. Thank you so much, my man.
All right, man.
I'll talk to you. Olaf Phillips, everybody. Yes, paranoiamagazine.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And one of the things that I enjoy about what Olaf does is the writing and the adventure that you do over at Paranoia Magazine. It's just great. And you need to do that. And it was so motivating for me this week that last week that I had to just reach out. I was like, Olaf, man, we've got to get you back on the show. We've got to. This stuff is just too good. So it's paranoiamagazine.com, Olaf Phillips. All right. Oh, man, what a show. We're at the end. I can't believe Eric is up in San Francisco right now, and I've had my mind blown with the East Bay Walls. So I can't wait to see what Eric is going to get back to us. The video that I posted up there, which was I think it was from Reuters. I could be wrong. But anyway, look at it. It's perfectly straight. That's incredible. Anyway, more on this as we get further along. Now, NASA has just introduced Boeing's new spacesuits. And if you haven't seen it, just go over to our Facebook page, Jimmy Church Radio. Because these new blue suits are out, and they're lighter, simpler, and more comfortable than those bulky orange suits of the space shuttle era. They were unveiled today, so you can go and get the first peeks at it over on our Facebook page. They're built for Boeing's new Starliner capsule. And each suit, check this out, they only weigh 20 pounds with all of the accessories and the helmet and everything all included compared to the 30-plus pounds for the old spacesuits. Now, the advances, though, include they have touch screen sensitive gloves. And I was watching the video. The gloves are just like totally flexible gloves, more flexible material. They're kind of tight fitting, and they have soft helmets. And the soft helmets are part of the spacesuits instead of the hard detachable helmets that you see now. They're very cool. Go check out the next generation of Boeing's blue spacesuits. Well, the next big protest that is being planned for the nation's capital is going to be a sea of lab coats. That's because it's scientists that are getting ready to converge on Washington, D.C. Why? A group of researchers have proposed a march for science. What started as a discussion on Reddit has now quickly blossomed into a full-fledged movement. Organizers started a private Facebook group and a Twitter account on Monday. By today, Wednesday afternoon, are you ready? 300,000 members on Facebook in 2 days. Twitter, 55,000 followers in 2 days. The public Facebook page had more than 11,000 likes in just 5 hours after going online on Monday. The explosion of support has caught everybody off guard, but it looks like now they're going to go ahead and deliver a full mission statement, and they're getting ready to crash Washington, D.C. They're upset about Trump's position with science. There you go. Well, another picture that we just posted over on our Facebook page, Real Madrid. You know, I don't talk sports too much on this show, but Real Madrid, the football team, you know, here, soccer, has removed the Christian cross from their club crest as part of a new clothing deal with 6 Middle Eastern countries. Now, if you're not familiar with the Real Madrid crest, I'm sure it's going to get posted up here in a few seconds on our feed. Let me see if it's up here already. You guys are too quick. All right. There's a little cross at the very top. It's a very minor part of there it is. Thank you, Mark. You are too quick. And if you look, you'll see a little cross there at the top. Not anymore. The European champions, whose main shirt sponsor is a Dubai-based airline, you know, United Arab Emirates, made a deal with the clothing manufacturer Marca. In order to make it happen, they had to take that cross off the top of the crown. Unbelievable. All right, I'm going to leave you with this. I got to get out of here. 75 people have been arrested, and more than 3,500 stolen artifacts and pieces of art were seized in a vast joint operation involving 18 European countries that dismantled an international cultural goods trafficking ring. Several of the seized objects are of great cultural importance in the archaeological world, such as a marble Ottoman tombstone and a Byzantine icon depicting St. George. 500 objects were found in the southern Spanish town of Murcia, including 19 that were taken from a local museum back in 2014. And with that, that concludes this episode 596 of Fade to Black. I want to thank Olaf Phillips for coming in tonight, all the first-time callers that phone home. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you, Olav Phillips. ParanoiaMagazine.com. Tomorrow night, Fader Night with John Rappaport. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.